What's up, people? For one time, I am on time. For once, I'm on time. A little bit early, actually, 15 seconds early. So, as you know, my name is James Blissett, professional gambler and founder of Lucrative MMA, which is my handicapping service where I help people make money from betting on MMA. And today, I'm going to be breaking down the upcoming card, sort of, Aspinall versus Tybura, UFC London. We'll also be doing a little recap on the card from this weekend, last weekend, which was Holly Holm versus Myra Bueno Silva up in Vegas. So they're going from Vegas to my hometown, London. I can't be there. Not in London right now, but I think it's going to be a good card. You know, it wasn't a good card last week. The fights weren't great. It was a pretty boring card. On paper, the fights weren't good, and then they didn't really deliver either. So, you know, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. That week's behind us now. And we got a solid event in London. There's some good fights on there. And I'm looking forward to them. So we'll definitely break some of the fights down today. I've done tape on about 60% of the card. I'll be finishing off some tape this evening. And obviously all bets will go out to my members, but I will be breaking down some with you today. So shout out to everybody in the chat. I want to say shout out to everybody first. We got Daz Files in here. We got Colby Sal. We got Sean. We got Robert Seymour. We got Daddy Pluto. Shout out to everybody here. We got 20 people at the moment live. So little impromptu thing, you know. I don't really give these too much advertisement before I do them. So shout out to everybody who's here. And without further ado, let's speak about last card. And like always, guys, I'm going to be dropping jewels. I'm going to be speaking about gambling. I'm going to be speaking about gambling theory, not only about who I think is going to win the upcoming fights, because I think there's a lot more important things than who's going to win one specific fight. So I guess we're going to start from the first fight of the night last week, and that was Ailin Perez versus Ashley Evans Smith. Now, most of you know I had a max bet on Ailin Perez, 7-unit bet at -170. I personally got her at -150, and then I added more on at -170, -180, -190. I thought she was valued all the way up until about -250. Turns out she was probably valued up until about -500. I didn't think that, but you know, it seemed like the fight played out in that realm. And I had a max bet on her, and she dominated the fight. It was the biggest domination of the entire fight card. So there was like 12, 13 fights, and she dominated the fight from pillar to post, the most of anybody on that card. Some fighters got finishes, but fighters that went the distance, she got 2 10-8s on 2 judges' scorecards. She got 30-25 on 2 judges' scorecards. And she was the most dominant fighter for the entire night. So obviously I was very happy to have my max bet on a fighter that I bet at -150. She closed -250, and she had the most dominant performance of the night. So my max bet couldn't have gone any better. I was very happy with that. We moved to 34 wins and only 3 losses. So we went from 33-3 to 34-3. And we made about 4.1 units on Ailin Perez overall. I had about 12, 13 grand on her overall. So I earned a good amount of money. And I do want to address something because, you know, a lot of people were saying that I can't believe you would lay juice on a women's MMA favorite. I can't believe you'd lay juice on a low-level fight. I can't believe you laid juice on a low-level women's fight. So I need to address this because people obviously don't understand gambling, right? And one of the things I like to do is educate people about gambling and try to help people avoid the mistakes that I made coming up. So because I've been gambling for over a decade and I've made many mistakes for many, many years. And I've tried to share my lessons for free on YouTube and all of my social medias with you. And one of the mistakes that is easy to make is to make blanket rules for yourself when you're gambling. But there's 2 sides to the coin, and I'm going to mention both sides right now. So the first side of the coin is you should never make blanket rules when you're gambling, because what you're doing is leaving money on the table. For example, if you say to yourself, I'm never going to bet on low-level women's MMA, well, then there's going to be a lot of spots on low-level women's MMA that you miss out on because someone has to win. Unless the fight's a draw, someone's going to win. And a lot of the times when that person wins, they're going to have value on their line, whether it's low level, high level, medium level, whatever. So if you make a blanket rule like that and you just completely avoid betting those type of fights, you're going to lose a lot of money. And even if you pass, right? If you pass on those spots, you don't count it as a loss, but I do. That's why I have a different mentality, because if I pass on a spot because I don't bet on low level women's MMA, okay, I didn't lose any money, but I did lose in the long term because I left money on the table. That's as bad as a loss. Who's this guy? Someone's calling me. But on the other hand, it's like when you so basically what I'm trying to say, sorry, I just got a phone call, threw me off. But what I'm trying to say is when you pass on a spot, you are actually technically losing money if you could have earned money on that spot, right? So it's not just like, oh, I passed on it and I saved my money. No, you actually lost your money. And on top of that, the other side of the coin, though, is when you're first starting off gambling, it's not a bad idea to make blanket rules for yourself. But that's not the optimal way to do it. The only reason why you should do it that way is because this guy keeps calling me. The only reason you should do that is because it makes it easier for you to create your own gambling process when you're first starting off. But it's not the optimal way to do it. So if I was a beginner gambler, I would say to myself, there's certain spots that you just don't bet on at the moment. In the future, you can, but right now, there's just certain spots that you shouldn't bet on because they're too volatile and usually they're harder to predict. So low level women's MMA is one of those spots that can be a little bit harder to predict and that is more volatile. So if you're a newbie gambler, if you don't understand much about gambling, or if you're just getting into MMA, and everyone wants to sit here and say, no, I know about this, but for the most part, most people, sorry guys, for the most part, most people won't know that much about MMA. Let me just text this guy and tell him to stop calling me because it's really annoying. Man, I was on a roll there. Guys call me many times. What is the point? All right. So if you're a newbie gambler and you're first starting out, especially with MMA, right, and you make a blanket rule like don't bet on low-level women's MMA, I understand that, right? Because it's going to make you avoid making certain mistakes, and certain mistakes are a lot easier to make with low-level women's MMA. But you should always strive to be a good all-round bettor. I say that all the time. You should always strive to be the best gambler in every realm of the market. So you shouldn't only bet on high-level fights. You shouldn't only bet on male MMA. You shouldn't only avoid betting on women's MMA. You should be able to gamble on every single fight as long as there is lines that are wide, right? That's all we want to be doing. That is the optimal way to gamble. The optimal way to gamble is to be able to bet on every single bet, prop, parlay, straight, every single type of prop, over, under, fighter wins by decision, fighter wins by submission. That's the optimal way to bet, right? You want to be able to bet on every single type of bet. So when you're first starting off, to recap this, when you're first starting off, yes, okay, you want to avoid certain spots if you found that they are harder for you to bet on. But as you get better and older and more wise in this game, and as you listen to people like me and other people, professional gamblers who are actually know what they're talking about, and as your reads get better on the specific market you're trying to conquer, well, then you should be able to reincorporate those things that you wasn't gambling on initially. So let's say for a year and a half, you said, I'm not going to bet on low-level women's MMA because it's too volatile. I'm not good at the game. After a year and a half, you should now be able to bet on low-level women's MMA because you should be improving every single week. And how do you improve? Well, that's a whole nother conversation. But what you do is you look at how the market relates to your bets, right? And that's basically how you improve. So I got thrown off a little bit there by the multiple calls I received. Sorry about that. But yeah, basically, I just wanted to address that because see a lot of people saying some really bad stuff. And if you listen to anybody and they say, do not lay chalk on low-level women's MMA, laying minus 200 is a bad bet on this low level. Don't bet a specific type of fighter or a specific bet type. If you hear anybody saying that, stop listening to them straight away, because they don't know what they're talking about and they are leading you down the wrong path. If you listen to so many people, you're going to take multiple things in and you're not going to know what path to follow. Get 1, 2, 3 people that you can trust, that you know they're talking correctly, and listen to them only. Ignore everything else. If people are telling you that you should not bet on low-level women's MMA and you shouldn't lay chalk minus 170s, minus 180s, just don't listen to them, because they're leading you down the wrong path and you're going to make more mistakes by listening to them. The reason you're listening to people like me and other people is because you want to make less mistakes. So don't be listening to people that's going to make you make more mistakes. So that's it. But yeah, I was very happy with the max bet. Obviously, probably one of my best max bets ever was on Ailin Perez, just because of the domination that she had. She looked around 90% in that spot, maybe a little bit more. So yeah, it was a good bet. What else were we saying? So Daddy Pluto, can somebody explain to me what units mean? This is not the stream for that, mate. Maybe someone wants to answer you if they're very nice, but this is not the stream for that. Because I'm such a nice guy, a unit is a unit of measurement in gambling. But just Google it, bro. What sportsbook do you use the most? Every single sportsbook. Any sportsbook that will take my action. I have some preferences because of the lines they give out and my ability to, how can I put this? My ability to get amounts of money down and my ability to bypass restrictions on certain books. But at the end of the day, anyone that will take my money. Captain Service saying, what's up? Jack Della Maddalena and Hafez goes the distance, plus 51. Got to be one of the worst lines of the year. Yeah, look, I love my man Captain Service, but sorry, I'm getting a call again. I do love my man Captain Service, but sometimes you can be a little bit extreme with certain things you say. I don't think it's one of the worst lines of the year because, I mean, that fight should have stopped multiple times. It's obviously a poor line, but man, I think JDM finishes that guy so many times that they fight. I mean, Hafiz was blowing bad. And then on top of that, Hafiz probably catches a sub a number of times. I mean, to see that fight, I'm not going to sit here and say like, wow, like that was obviously always going to go the distance. I will say, though, that obviously it was wide. With Ange Lusa fight, I had Jack Della Maddalena by decision in that spot. And that was good. But the thing about that is Lusa doesn't gas as much as Hafiz does. But Hafiz just turned out to be super, super tough. And obviously, I think the 2 weight cuts affected Jack Della Maddalena. But that was a great fight, man. Like, I don't want to take away from that fight because that was a really, really good fight. It was an absolute barn burner. I mean, it was insane. The amount of punishment Hafiz took was crazy. And I know a lot of people bet Hafiz there, and I almost bet him, was very, very close to betting him. Ultimately, I passed, but I don't understand people, scoring that fight for Hafiz. I think they want to score that fight for Hafiz because he was a massive underdog against Jack Della. And obviously Jack was his massive favorite. And it's like, you don't really want to give the fight to a minus 800 if it was a very close fight. But at the end of the day, Jack Della clearly won the fight. I mean, it wasn't close in terms of the decision. It was a very close fight overall because Hafiz had so much moments, but it wasn't close in terms of who won the fight. It was very, very clear. Jack Della Maddalena clearly won the fight. I don't understand how you can score it for Hafiz. But to be honest, man, just thinking off the top of my head right now, in real time, that second round, it was kind of close. I mean, Hafiz got his takedown at the end of the round, but I think he got beat up so badly in round 2 that he wasn't able to win that round. It would be kind of silly giving that second round to Hafiz, considering that he got beat up for most of it. I will say Jack Della Maddalena showed some really, really bad IQ by pulling Gilly that many times. I mean, Hafiz was dead multiple times, and if Jack Della didn't pull guillotine, he would have finished him clearly. The referee almost stepped in multiple times was calling for Hafiz to move and move. And Jack Della, I mean, there was one specific point. I remember Hafiz was on all fours. Jack Della decided to go for the guillotine. And then Hafiz was doing really well at getting out of the guillotine. He was hopping over to side control very quickly. Obviously, he does that a lot in training because he's a wrestler. So he's very familiar with people pulling guillotine on him or trying to guillotine him. So he hops over to side control very well. But yeah, man, Jack clearly won the fight. I guess some of the hype has derailed. And it is kind of annoying going forward because, you know, maybe the market will bake that in a little bit. But you also have to say that he did cut weight twice in 2 weeks, and that potentially may have affected him. And he's obviously going to learn from this. But yeah, he's got a massive hole in the wrestling. And I'm going to be interested to see if they reline him against Sean Brady, if they make him fight against Sean Brady sometimes, what they will reline him as. Because obviously, you know, he was a favorite and then he got bet down to pick him. So you would expect Sean Brady to go favorite. You know, maybe it opens up a pick 'em and it goes favorite because the bookies do adjust after fights are cancelled like that. So we'll see, man. It'll be interesting. But I still want to see JDM versus Sean Brady. I don't think JDM is completely done in that fight. I don't think it's 100% locked that Brady just wrestles him. I will say that I think Hafiz is a lot tougher than Brady. I think Hafiz on the feet can take a lot more shots than Brady can. And so, I mean, that opens up a lot. You know what I mean? Because Jack Della almost stopped Hafiz multiple times. If Brady took the same amount of shots, Jack probably would have stopped him, right? The only thing is that Brady has better jiu-jitsu than Hafiz, so maybe, like, most likely JDM wouldn't have got back to his feet, right? But I do want to say that I'm not ready to say Brady's minus 500 in that spot at all, to be honest. Like all of Twitter was after that fight. But watching that fight, it definitely did seem like Brady would do a lot of damage to JDM in the wrestling, at least. I still want to see the fight, though, personally. You know, a lot of people probably like, no, we know the outcome, whatever. But I personally still want to see that fight. So I don't know if they'll book it again, but hopefully. Gerardo's saying, sup, James? Yeah. Sean is saying only the Sif's deal in absolutes. Yeah, that's true, bro. David, for me, women's MMA can often be more reliable because they go to a decision more often, which means that the strengths and weaknesses that you identified in research has more time to play out. If your fighter gets knocked out in the first round, then your read on the fight doesn't go have much time. Yeah, so I will counter that. And the reason I'll counter that is because, but then I also agree with your point in a way. So I don't think women's MMA is more reliable. I do think it's more volatile. I don't think it's a complete fast. I don't think it's a complete fake, that it is less volatile. I do think it is more volatile. So I do think people are correct when they're saying it. But I think it's way overblown that it's more volatile. But I do agree that it is more volatile. It's just not insanely more volatile and you always have to avoid it. It's just slightly more volatile because the skill set hasn't developed as much as men's MMA. So it's lower level, right? Inherently, any women's fight is lower level than any men's fight on an average, right? You're going to say one women's fight was better than one, of course, but on average. And what happens is because it's lower level, there's more volatility. It's not so much that it's a woman, it's just that it's lower level because women's MMA hasn't been around for long enough and they're not as athletically gifted as men. So the level inherently is lower. And if the level's lower, the volatility goes up. So that's the reason it's more volatile. But I will agree with what you said there, that it goes to decision more often. So then the fight has more time to play out. And that's true, you know. People say our armbar from guard happens a lot in women's MMA. And that is true a lot more than men's MMA because of the low level. They're not as good as fighting the arm. They're not as good as identifying when they're in trouble on the ground because of what I just mentioned. So yes, there is more armbar from guard. There is more things that shouldn't happen. You know, fighters getting taken down when they shouldn't or making lower IQ decisions because they haven't had as many fights. You see a woman's career versus a men's career, you go and have a look. Virtually 90% of the time, the men have had more fights than the women because more men fight, right? So they've had more octagon time, which means their fight IQ inherently is higher. But I will say that in men's MMA, fighters get finished earlier, way more. So there's much more volatility in like early knockouts than women's MMA. So for every women's MMA armbar from guard, you get a man's early knockout, right? So they kind of offset each other there. So that offsets each other. The real volatility comes in and bends it into women's MMA's favor is because of the lower level nature of the fight. Major saying volatility equals opportunity. Exactly. Some people say they're going to avoid low-level women's MMA because it's more volatile. More volatile means you can get lines that are more volatile, which means you can capitalize on lines. You get a plus 200 that should never be a plus 200, right? Like we had Jasmine Jasudavicius over Miranda Maverick, or even we'll speak about a lower-level fight. Luana Carolina plus 185, right? She shouldn't have been that. So in the lower volatility, there is often more opportunity. So you have to understand that. Major saying he got JDM by decision at plus 900. Yeah, I know a few guys were on that as well. Yeah, well done, bro. Captain Service saying, I scored it 29-27 JDM. Yes, the 10-8. Yeah, was correct. I think that was the third round of 10-8. Just think that fight goes to decision 35-40. Yeah, I wouldn't say that high personally. 40% is a lot. That means it should be plus 150, where I wouldn't put it plus 150, but I'd meet you somewhere in the middle, Major saying Hafiz wanted it so bad and he's been screaming at UFC for. You could tell he just wasn't going to be denied in that spot, man. Like the guy had a hot, like he should have been finished multiple times, but he was like, nah, I'm not being finished. This is my spot, and he did well there. That's saying had a Hafiz decision. Yeah, great bet, plus 1400, really, really good bet there. Brian saying, if my sportsbook only offered under 1.5 rounds and your pick says 2.5 rounds, should we stay off that bet? Yeah. If you pay for my picks and you can't get the exact pick, I didn't tip 2.5. So you don't bet another one. What you can do in this case is message me and I will tell you the best alternative bet to play if there is one on your sportsbook, or to pass completely. But I will also say that there is no such thing as my sportsbook. I really dislike, and this is nothing against you, Brian. I'm just speaking to everybody because I get messages a lot, right, from gamblers that haven't been around the game too long. And I get messages a lot of the time and they say, my sportsbook doesn't offer this. And I get really annoyed at that because what that means is that you have one sportsbook. Otherwise, you wouldn't say my sportsbook, right? If you had 15, you wouldn't say my one. You would say one of my ones. So you have one sportsbook. You should never have one sportsbook. If you want to make money from betting on MMA or any market, you have to line shop, right? So that means you get multiple different sports books and you shop around at each of them for the best lines. For example, very, very often I get lines that are better than most of the market. Why? Because I line shop. For example, I bet Aylin Perez at minus 150. Where she was about minus 170 on most sports books at the time I bet her. I just saw this one bookie that was hanging her line lower. So I smashed that line. I shouldn't have done that because it ended up me, along with a few other things, it ended up me getting banned from that sports book. So, I mean, the game's so deep, guys. I can speak about this for hours, honestly. And I will write a book one day on MMA gambling because I literally could speak about this for 20 hours and still not even be done 50% of the content. But line shopping is very important, but you don't want to completely hit stale lines. And I have to mention this just because it's just morally, I have to mention this. You don't want to hit stale lines every single time on every single sports book, every single time you have a chance, because more often than not, that's going to flag you up to the team at the, I can't remember what a team's called. It's called client manager or loss prevention, whatever it is, team at the sports book, and they're going to ban you more often than not if you're hitting stale lines. What does a stale line mean? Stale lines are lines that are completely off the market average. So everybody had Aylin Perez at minus 170, around there. A few had minus 180, but for the most part, minus 170. One sports book I saw in the market was hanging minus 150, so I smashed it. Now, if you consistently do that, you're going to flag up to the algorithm and you might get banned. So you have to be careful, but you should always line shop and get the best available line compared to the market average. For example, if every sports book has minus 170, minus 175, minus 180, minus 185. You're going to bet the minus 170, right? You need to, because what that means is to win 1 unit, you only have to put 1.7 units on. So to win $100, you only have to lay $170. But if you bet the same bet at minus 200, you have to bet $30 more to get the same amount of money back. That means you've lost $30 in the long term. So if you're betting on worse lines, you are losing money. Now, you're not always going to be able to get the best line in the market. That's not how it works, right? You're never going to be able to do that. But you need to try your best to get the best lines in the market at all times. Going back to your point, you should have going back to my original point, you should have multiple sports books. Everybody listening to this video now should have multiple sports books, especially if you are in Brian's position where he has one and they don't even offer alternate round props. They only offer one type of round prop. I mean, alternate round props in 2023 are not hard to come by. Fight starts round 2, fight starts round 3, or alternate round props like over 2-5, 3-5, 4-5, and they can be very beneficial. So, even if you had the best sports book in the world that offered every single prop, you still need to have many sports books. But if your sports book doesn't even offer every single prop, then you need to have more sports books more than anybody. So, yeah. Saying I hate that about TAB, then you need to go to Sportsbet, who is also in Australia. Bob Fishdicks is saying, I only smashed over 1.5 at plus 150, plus 160. Yeah, nice. Still think he beat Sean Brady. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting, man. Hitman is saying guillotine the most negative EV move in MMA. Yeah, it does seem that way a lot of times. It really does. Especially when you pull guillotine. You know what I mean? If you do it like a standing guillotine, or if you do like a ninja choke, like Myra Buena Silva did the other day, at least you can bail on it. You know what I mean? But when you jump gilly, if you don't hit that, even if you put your leg in as you're jumping and you have butterfly guard, you might be able to reverse them, or you might not. You're just in a bad position. Your back on the mat is the worst position you can have in MMA, apart from them taking your back or full mount or something. Full mount is your back on the mat, but having your back on the mat is a bad position in MMA. You don't want to be pulling it willingly. Cabin Service saying, I think Brady will open minus 200 or so at this point, honestly. Would happily bet JDM at plus 180 range. Yeah. I think it'll be a different fight than most people are expecting. But we'll see, man. Thoughts on Corey Sandman plus 260. So Corey Sandhagen is fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, obviously. Yeah, I just really think Umar's the real deal. I mean, I've been saying it for a long, long time. It's a massive step up in competition. I said Umar Nurmagomedov would beat Peter Yan about 2 years ago when everybody thought Peter Yan was the king. And people call me silly for saying that, right? But now I think people would probably agree with me that Peter Yan would lose to Umar Nurmagomedov. Or they certainly wouldn't call me silly for suggesting it, like they did when I mentioned it 2-3 years ago when Peter Yan was meant to be the pound-for-pound king, and now he's been clearly proven to not be that. So the reason I say that is because I've obviously rated Umar highly, right? If I'm saying that 2 years ago about Peter Yan. So I really, really rate him highly. I think it could be a rear naked choke for him. I think Umar's the truth. I think he's the next champion. That's what I think of it. I need to do tape a little bit, but I think he's the truth, to be honest, mate. But Corey's elite, man. Corey's elite. Corey's the truth as well. He lacks in that jiu-jitsu defense sometimes, and that can get him into trouble. And against someone with such a good back take like Umar, that could get him into trouble, man. But 260, we're not talking about even money. We're talking about 260, so. And this is just descended into me speaking about speaking to the chat. So I'm going to just go back a little bit. What fights can we talk about from last week? I'll speak about one or two more, and then I'll go on to this new card here. I mean, it was a shit card. I guess we'll talk about the main event. And I mean, someone says it here, and they've reminded me. So thanks a lot, Nathan Scott, because he's told me that I was all over the Buena Silva sub and what made you not fire it. Yeah, I was all over it. My breakdown on the Elite Zone, to anybody who's an Elite member of my website, you basically get full card breakdowns every single fight on every single major card every single week. I break down the fight in full. and I heavily leaned to Myra Brenner Silva by submission in that spot. I was going to bet a money line. I was going to bet her via decision, and I was going to bet the fight ends inside the distance. They all hit. I didn't bet any. I just decided to stay off, man. There's no like major thing that made me not fire. There was multiple things. Obviously, Holman had massive experience edge over her. Just many things on the home side. I don't need to go into them. I just decided not to play it. I was happy with the current bets I had. But obviously, that's a big regret from me. Another massive regret is not playing Nazim Sadikov. I was massive on him as well. And I also have the current betting lean section on my website. So basically, there's many, many bets every single week that I am thinking of firing on, but I don't fire on, like Buena Silva sub. And I put those in my elite section just so people see where my head's at for maybe any upcoming bets that I may potentially bet, or where my head's at for any of the fights, right? And again, I had Nazim Sadikov, I had Myra Buena Silva, Myra sub, I had Inside the Distance, like a lot of stuff there on the bet and lean section that some people actually ended up taking. And yeah, shout out to them. And I never parade them. I never say, oh, look, I was leaning this way. I never ever say that, because you can't say you lean that way and then parade it when it wins. So I don't at all, not mention it. I'll say that, damn, I wanted to bet that. I should have bet that. I made a mistake there. I'll tell the truth and I'll answer your question. I would never parade it, but it's just a very good tool for people on my elite zone of the website to see where my head's at for particular bets. Because there's many reasons I don't bet bets, even though I think they may have value on them. But yeah, man, it was tough on this one. She locked in a ninja choke there, even in round one. I know she lost it on all three judges' scorecards, but I thought she looked decent in round one. I think Holly looked off. I think Myra looked on. I think she rocked her. She hit her with a good few knees. I thought the pressure and pace was getting to Holly. And we saw in round three, the pressure kind of got to Holly, man. Holly took her against the cage and kind of was just doing some bullshit holding against the cage like she does. And Myra is an elite finishing threat. I said it all week last week. She's a very good finishing threat, and it showed there. So just a big regret by me this year, not playing Myra, not playing Myra sub, not playing ends inside the distance, and not playing Sadikov. It was one of those cards last week where all of my leans hit. Like every fight that I leaned on that I didn't bet hit, and the bets that I had almost hit but didn't. It was just one of those weeks, and it happens a lot. So I don't really think too much into it. I don't get too upset or anything, but obviously it was a big regret of me not playing that in general. Hafiz won by Iron Chin. TAB have brought in over unders. My man Shawnee back. Shout out to you. Who else we got? I have 9 now. Yeah, 9 bookies. Shout out to Daz. Look at Daz, man. Daz is the man. Honestly, when Daz first come on the scene, he was nowhere near as sharp as he is now. So that just shows you that people can learn, grow, and become better. And if you're the same person that is just like never improving year after year at something, you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, and like at anything in life, gambling as well, and ask yourself, why are you not improving? And if you're not improving, it's probably due to ego, or you're just not built for the game. Maybe you just can't control your emotions and you need to deal with emotional control. Because a lot of people, the reason they lose at gambling is because of emotional control. They don't have the emotional control to win, or their ego's so big they don't want to listen to anyone. They just want to think that they are right and nobody else is. And if you do that, then you're never going to improve, because you're going to miss a lot of things that your eyes don't see, because you can't see everything. So yeah, shout out to Daz. And yeah, Top Sport don't really limit, man. Top Sport don't limit. I know Top Sport, they're Australian bookie. They don't really limit. I like Top Sport. They're good, man. I've not heard of them limiting, so shout out to them. Major's saying, is there a tool to line shop, or you just got to do the damn thing? There are tools to line shop, but for MMA markets, that's not really great. But what you do, bro, instead of like, because there are specific tools that will like let you know when the lines move and stuff like that, and they're quite useful, but they're mainly for other sports. The way you line shop for the most part in MMA is by using fightodds.io. If you go to fightodds.io, it's going to show you all the lines on a good amount of bookies, about 10 different bookies for every line for every fight on the card, and every type of bet on that fight as well. But the thing about that is that they're not up to date of the minute. They're up to date of like the hour or 2 hours or something. And sometimes they're quite good, but sometimes they're a bit lagging by a day or something. So basically, you kind of just have to do the damn thing. I never really rely on, when I do line shopping, I check, I get my phone, whatever. I've got many phones. And I go through them individually because that's real-time lines, right? So I don't even use fightodds.io, honestly. I do use it, but I don't use it when I want to bet a specific thing and I'm trying to line shop. Then you just have to do it on your phone yourself. Doesn't take too long, bro, once you get used to it. Fubu saying the risk management team. Exactly. That's who I was thinking of. Shawnee Max saying, won't you eventually get banned everywhere? Yes, I already have been. I already have been banned everywhere for the most part. And that's a never-ending game of sports betting. And that's one of the main reasons why I created my handicapping service, was because I was starting to get banned in many, many places back in 2019, which is when I first created my Twitter and my handicapping service and started selling picks. And I could see the writing on the wall with certain limits that were coming in. Affordability checks were coming in even back then. And it's only getting worse and worse and worse. And I could see the writing on the wall. So that's a big, big reason why I created my handicapping service, because I'm still able to make some extra money from my handicapping service and help people make money and take money off the very people that banned me in the first place, the sports book. So it's a win-win for me. And because I get banned all the time, so like I'm not always able to get the amount of money down I want, because I might be banned that specific week, or sometimes on any given day, I'll wake up, I'll go on my Bet365 account, or I'll go on my Neds account, or I'll go on my sports bet account, or I'll go on my, like, literally have so many accounts here. So there's Palmer's Bet, Blues Bet, Boom Bet, Sports Bet, TAB, Betfair, Bet for Exchange, Unibet Sports, Ladbrokes, Bet365, William Hill, TAB, Betway Sports, Neds, 888 Sport. And then on my other phone, I've got even more. I've got tons of bookies from the UK, Virgin Bet, like bookies from all different countries. And on any given day, I'll wake up, go on the apps, and they're telling me I've been banned. So yeah, I eventually will be banned from everywhere, but there are ways around that. And I've spoke about that at length, to be honest. If you put all of my podcasts together, I've spoke about it in many different ways. Even just last video, I spoke about it in depth a little bit. So yeah, you can never stop a motivator bet. Exactly. There's always ways to get your money down, man. There's always ways to get your money down. But it's a hassle. When you get to my level, betting big amounts and also known within the industry, it's definitely a hassle. But hey, man, nothing in life is easy, you know. Major saying, so line shopping is similar to stocks or crypto. You can buy a price times crypto. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the same, man. Umar isn't going to beat Corey. Easy win. Okay. Mike saying, I have a weird feeling about Volk Islam outcome from this fight. Yeah. Aiden saying, yeah, I'm just scared of the sub, but I think the value is hard to pass. Yeah, I feel you, man. Mike saying, I almost put sub, but Holly never gets sub, so I backed off. Yeah, that didn't mean anything to me, honestly. That's not the reason I didn't bet at all, man. The thing about that is she had only really ever been grinded or taken down by or dominated on the mat really by Misha Tate, and she kind of just subbed her instantly as soon as she got her back, which wasn't a good look from her, really. And then other than that, what's she done in the jiu-jitsu? She's not done much. I mean, Ketlin had her in a submission. I mean, yeah, she got out, but it's not great being put in a submission there. Other than that, she's not really fought anyone who's like wrestled her and taken her down. She's been the one taking them down. So that didn't mean anything to me. And on top of that, I mean, she's obviously a really, really Mayra Bueno Silva is a very dangerous submission threat, probably the most dangerous that Holly's ever faced. So for me, that didn't mean anything. So it's all about context, Mike. You know, like saying Holly never gets subbed is not enough to not bet on the other fighter by submission, because that's missing out the massive context. So that's how you can improve in MMA, because don't just look at it and be like, this guy's never been to a decision. He can never do that, right? Because it's all about the context of the fight, the dynamic of the fight. Holmes she's getting on. She's much older. Just one fight before, she almost got subbed by Ketlin Vieira. You can't keep getting almost subbed. Eventually, you're going to get subbed. You can't keep getting almost subbed. That doesn't work. There's no such thing as that. So that was a red flag right there. On top of that, Mara Benasilva is the best submission artist that she's ever faced. On top of that, she did get submitted by Misha Tate the one time someone got on her back. So, I mean, all of these are red flags. These are not green flags. You know, Holly Holm never gets subbed. To you, that's a green flag. But if I actually put it on context, they're all red flags. And by the way, I said all of this before the fight as well. That's why people in the chat saying, why didn't I bet Mara sub? Because I was literally speaking about it. Also, it's on YouTube. Me and Liam came on my early recap, look forward event YouTube video last week, and I mentioned Mara sub as well. So, yeah, man. Plus value on a sub worth a small shot. Yeah, of course, man. I agree. I didn't do it, and that's why I said it was a regret. Fuba's saying, trying to talk myself out of max bet on Nathaniel Wood. Played him heavy at minus 150. Hopefully some money comes in on the other side, makes it back a little. Yeah, man, I like Nathaniel Wood a lot. I'm quite friendly with Nathaniel Wood, speak to him quite often. And he came on my YouTube channel, actually, not too long ago. You can go and watch that interview if you want, leading up to his fight. It's probably a good time to watch that interview. Me and Nathaniel Wood, we just shoot the shit for about an hour. It's quite good. He, speak about random shit, to be honest. It's not like a boring one of these boring interviews. How are you feeling in your camp? How's fighting? I'm just talking with another Londoner, so it's quite fun. So I like Nathaniel Wood a lot, and I don't want to get my bias involved, right? Because obviously I'm supporting him. Hopefully he wins this fight. But I do think this could be his coming out party. He's deserved one for a while, and he's not necessarily got that massive fight. Maybe the Dodson fight was a big fight. Obviously, it didn't go his way. It was doing well in that fight up until the third round, and luckily, he just got caught. Happens. Pretty sure he popped up right after the referee called it. But that's neither here or there. I think this could be his coming out party. We see Philly doesn't really rise up to the occasion a lot, and I think this is a big spot for Philly in Nathaniel Wood's hometown of London, and I think Wood might rise to the occasion. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good fight, though. Definitely. It's going to be a good fight. Sean is saying getting around bands would be a great chapter for that book you could write. I buy it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do it, man. It's just about carving out the time. Sean is a member of my service, and you remember the Elite Zone as well. So, you know how much work goes into the Elite Zone every single week. There's no off week. Do you know what I mean? There's basically no off week in MMA. Even if there's an off week, I'm betting on Bellator or PFL. And even if there's a major organization off week, I'm betting on the prop, the regional scene, So, and even if I'm betting on nothing, I'm updating the Elite Zone or I'm creating the Elite Zone, or I'm making different things for my website, so there's always things to do on the MMA side, on the gambling side. And then I've also doing other things in life, other projects and stuff like that. So it's just about getting the time to write the book, but I'm definitely going to do it. It is a goal of mine. So I'm most certainly going to write a book. And then in the future, I'm going to write another book, nothing to do with gambling, more just to do with mindset, life, health, that sort of stuff, which I'm into. But definitely it will be coming out within 12 months. Touch wood. Captain Service saying, how big we going on Tybura this weekend? Yeah, so this is a good fight, man. Fubu's saying that I don't see it going well for Tybura, and he's made me a ton of money. Sean's saying I'm waiting for that Aspinall round one prop. So the thing about this fight is, right, and Captain Service saying Tybura has maybe a ton of money too, simply a cardio and knee injury bet. Yeah, so if your read is cardio and knee injury, you can't really fault you because the cardio is a bit of an unknown, but the knee injury isn't, so it's more of a fade on that. Plus 350 is a big number, I must admit it. For me, Aspinall is an unknown. We don't know about Aspinall, right? He could be the truth, man. Aspinall could be the truth. Aspinall could be the one to give Jones a good fight. I honestly think that his upside, his ceiling is John Jones. Beating John Jones or a close fight of John Jones. You know what I mean? I honestly think that Aspinall's ceiling is that champion, number one in the division, could have beaten Garnu, beat Cyril Garn, like that level. I honestly think he's there. I honestly think he could be there. But guess where else he could be? Top 10 heavyweight, blows some people out of the water in round one, but then loses a lot. Romanov, he could be a Romanov, a top 15, top 10. Or he could be a Cyril, a Francis, a John Jones, a top 1. So the jury is out on Tom Aspinall, right? Now, the thing about it is we just don't know. So let's address the cardio issue. The guy knocks everyone out in round 1 or round 2. So how do we know he's going to fade late? We don't. What indications do we have to whether he's going to fade late or go strong late? What we have is the Andrei Arlovski fight, where he seemed to have a bit of a cardio dump in round 2, but then he finished Andrei Arlovski straight after. I'm not ready to say that was a cardio dump and he was going to fall apart, because we've seen it many, many times. Dricus du Plessis, the guy dies in round 2, apparently, but then in round 3 looks amazing. So, like, I'm not ready to say, oh, yeah, look at the Arlovski fight. He was gassing. That's it. He's going to gas. You can't say that because we didn't see it happening. A lot of fighters look a bit tired and they dig deep in the 3rd round and they come back. It's a very common thing. It's so common in MMA, especially in 5-round fights as well. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but guy starts off good round 1 and round 2, takes off round 3 or 4 and takes off round 3, comes back 4 and 5. Marvin Vettori did it in a Jack Hermansson fight. Round 1 and round 2, took off round 3, came back 4 and 5. So oftentimes fighters have a bit of a dump, adrenaline dump, cardio dump, whatever it may be, and come back strong. So the Arlovski fight, we take note of it, but we don't really make any conclusions from it. The other one was, I think he got tapped out in round 2 or round 3 in his like 2nd, 3rd fight against, and I haven't watched it because I've seen it before. I know the fight very well. When he got taken down multiple times, but he was basically outpacing the guy, actually. And then he got like knee barred or something like that. This was his only other loss other than the Curtis Blades one, I think. A long time ago in Cage Warriors, Cage Rage, one of those UK organizations. I think it might have been Cage Warriors. That's the only other time he's gone a bit late, right? So basically, we don't know. Tom's a big guy. He's in and out of range. Captain Service saying he's super fast, huge, slick striker. Yeah, he's massive for a heavyweight. He's big. He's super fast. Can he keep that up for 15 minutes? We don't know. It's really tough. For me, I think he wins this fight. I think he wins this fight. I'm not sure he just goes out there and pummels Tybura in round 1, like I think a lot of people are expecting. I think maybe he takes it a bit slower this time. He's coming back, knee injury. He's speaking a lot about his kicks. Apparently, he never had kicks, but now he's added a lot of kicks to his game. That'd be interesting. He said he never threw kicks before because of his knee, but now he's got a knee surgery. Now he's throwing lots of kicks and stuff, so he's going to show a lot of his kicks. That'll be interesting because if Tom now starts kicking, he's going to be even better. But I do think that Tom wins the fight. I think he probably finishes Tybura in round 2. And that's my prediction of the fight. I've got Tom in round 2. But the thing is, the jury's out on Tom, so you can't lay minus 500. And like Captain Service, if he's, like he's saying, plus 350. If you're laying plus 350, I mean, you can't really fault that. You know what I mean? You can't really be a smart person and sit here and say, why are you betting plus 350? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It would be silly for anyone to do that. And I wish no one does do that. Minus 500 on Aspinall, you can't really justify it from what we know of him. But the fact of the matter is, he's probably better than Tybura everywhere. And the places that he might not be better than him at, he might be better than him at, right? So the only unknowns is cardio and durability, maybe just because you've not really seen him touched. But he could easily have better cardio than Tybura. Tybura's got good cardio, to be honest, really. But I'm not saying Tom's definitely not got better. Tom could be a 5-round fighter, Cyril Gane. We don't really know. I would lean that not really, but we don't know. So the only thing Tybura has really is experience and potential cardio and maybe durability upside. But it's tough, man. It's tough for me to get behind Tybura. But it's in heavyweight, which just adds to the volatility. He's coming back from a knee injury. We never know how that's going to perform, which adds to the volatility. So, like I said, if you're playing Tybura at plus 350, I have to assume that is the side. It's definitely the side because, gun to my head, where's the value? Tybura 100% easily. It's not even a question. But for me, I think Tom's going to get it done. And I'd like to see a Tom round 2 prop or something, round 2, round 3, because I don't think he's going to steamroll him. But it could just be as soon as he touches him, he goes down, because I think Tom hits very fast, not necessarily super hard, but super fast. And then on top of that, we've seen him finish a lot of people early, but we've seen Tybura knocked out multiple times as well, and early. So, it's a bit tough. But yeah, I mean, my prediction is Tom Aspinall to win in round 2. Captain saying he's better than Tybura everywhere except for maybe fighting in the 7th minute. He's definitely a quick twitch guy. Yeah. So it's an unknown, and I understand fading the unknown of the cardio, but I think that's really all it is. It's just fading the unknown of the cardio, and that could be enough here. Because if Tybura survives, which I do expect him to survive round 1, I just think Tom's going to be a bit smarter. Then obviously it could look like a great bet. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see, man. I'm obviously rooting for Tom. He's an English guy. I obviously want him to win. I want all the English guys to win for the most part, unless I don't like them. But I very rarely don't like a fighter. I think it's majorly weird, man, where people or men just hate lots of fighters. I don't like that fighter. This is a list of the most annoying fighters. Relax, man. Everybody's different. Everyone's gonna imagine spending your time hating loads of fighters. This fighter's an idiot. I don't like that fighter. I got beef with that fighter. Are you a little kid or something? Relax yourself, man. I mean, everyone's got a different personality. You're not going to love anybody. Let them all do their thing. I respect everybody's personality. You know what I'm saying? There's very, very few amount of fighters that I really dislike. If any, waste too much energy. One of the ones that I didn't really like for a while, man, was Adrian Broner, because a lot of the stuff I saw from him was just stupid stuff. I've seen him getting into brawls, punching people consistently, talking reckless on camera, going into Walmart and throwing dollar bills or something to all the people working there, saying he's rich. There's been multiple other things as well. Adrian Broner's the one that I was this guy's an idiot. But for the most part, man, fighters are funny, but I laugh at them all because they got their own personalities, isn't it? It's quite funny. What we got? What? How do you decide your max bets? So it's a combination. This is the easiest way I can explain it. It's the combination of how confident I am in my read of the fight, which is something that people don't speak about at all. Yeah, you might have a read of a fight, but there's confidence in your read. This is things that just not spoken of, and I don't know why. You have a confidence level to your read. I have a read on every fight, but sometimes my read is just I don't know, man. People DM me or people message me asking, what do you think about this fight? And I almost want to reply and say, I don't know, bro. Yeah, I think that's going to happen, but I'm not interested in sitting down for hours and going, right, this is going to happen and that might happen. But if he throws the right hook, if I don't have a strong read on it, I don't really care too much about it. So I kind of kick back. So my read has to be very, very, very strong, first of all, for me to even lay a max bet, because that means I'm putting a lot of money on the line. I'm not going to put a lot of money on the line if my read isn't solid. So I have to have a very solid read. So my read on the Ashley Evans and Ailin Perez fight was very solid. I thought Ailin Perez was going to dominate, and I was very confident in that read. I was very confident she could get the body lock takedowns, and look what she did. She actually set a record, I think, for most takedowns or most strikes or something, most control time. She set a record, right? And I was very confident that she could get the fight to the ground at any point. I was extremely confident in that read of the fight. So it's the confidence of the read. And then it is also the amount of value, the confidence of the read times by the amount of value on the line, the amount of perceived value on the line, times by the likelihood of it happening. For example, if I have a very confident read that Basel Hafez shouldn't be a plus 500, so that's tick one box. And then I'm very confident that there's a lot of value on the line at plus 500. That's ticked another box. But then I'm not confident that there's a very high likelihood of Basil winning the fight. Then I won't make it a max bet. I might make it a big bet, but I won't make it a max bet. And the reason for that is because when I'm laying max bets, I want them to cash at a very high strike rate. So when I'm laying, and this is extremely important, I think a lot of people can learn from this, so definitely listen up. When I'm laying my average bets, a 2-unit bet, 2.5-unit bet, whatever, when I'm laying my average bet, 1, 2, 3-unit bet, I don't have to think that bet's going to cash at a massive clip, right? I'll bet a plus 400 underdog at 2 units and think is only going to win 30% of the time. I'll do that easily. I would never max bet a line that I think's only going to win 30% of the time. Even if the odds were plus 2,000, I wouldn't max bet it. The reason for that is because I don't max bet often. So the amount of time that's going to have to pass for me to see out that variance positively. Because if I'm betting a 30% implied, if I'm betting on a bet that I think is going to land 30% of the time, that's a lot of variance I'm going to have to go over. That's a lot of losses I'm going to have to take. I'm saying I'm going to take 7 losses out of 10. And who knows in what order that's going to come. I might get the 7 losses first. I might get 14 losses first and then hit 6 in a row. So I don't want to be laying massive amounts of money on something that I'm only saying is happening 20, 30% of the time, regardless of how off the line is, or regardless of my read, my confidence on the read. So that's very important distinction. But basically, bro, like I said, to recap, it's a combination of my confidence of the read, my read of the fight and how much value I think's on the line, and how likely it's going to happen. I thought Eileen Perez was going to win that fight 80+% of the time, right? I thought it was very, very likely that she was going to win that fight very, very often. So I don't care about laying 12, 15K on that bet because I'm super confident I'm going to cash it. So yeah, hope I answered the question there. What do I look at for underdog bets? Someone asked me this question in the last stream, and do you remember what I said? This question doesn't make sense. Every single bet, I literally answered this question last stream. Every single bet, I bet for different reasons. I've never bet 2 different bets for the same reasons, ever. There's always been slight differences, if there is any. So how can I answer the question if every bet is completely different or at least slightly different? I can't do it, right? There's no one thing I'd look for underdog. You can say, oh, fight for your money. No, wrong. I would bet fighters that don't fight for my money as underdogs. If there was plus 1,000 and I capped them at plus 100, I don't care if they're quitters. So there's no one blanket statement that I can give you for betting underdogs. It goes back to every type of bet, not just why I bet underdogs. I look for value. And the way I look for value is by 2,000 different metrics. Who's the better striker? Who's the better cardio? Who's more experienced? Like, do you know what I mean? 2,000, 1,000 different metrics. Doesn't matter if it's an underdog or a favorite. There's no specific thing I look at for an underdog that I don't look at for a favorite. There could be specific spots that I look to target for a bet if a fight is an underdog, but that's a completely different question. For example, oftentimes when undefeated fighters are making their UFC debuts, or fighters that have lost one or something, they have hype on them and they're favorites. So I like to fade hype. I often like to fade hype and bet on underdogs. That's one of my favorite spots for betting on underdogs. But there's not a blanket rule that every time I bet on an underdog has to be a hype, right? So it's a very tricky question. But I could answer what are some of my favorite spots to capitalize on the market lining fighters as underdogs. I could say that, and going against hype would be one of them. And what I would also say is go and watch my YouTube channel. I've made many, many videos on how I look for value, how I bet on certain fighters, why I bet on certain fighters, and go and look at my videos, not my live videos. And I've got many, many videos on there on how to make money from an MMA. And I touch on underdogs many, many times. Capping service, if the fight gets to round 2, I feel like it's pretty close to a 50-50. Agree Aspinall is way better in a 3-rounder. I wouldn't be interested in fading him. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's close to 50-50 in round 2. Reason is because Aspinall has round 2 finishes, and I think Aspinall can finish in round 2. And I don't really give Tybura that much upside for, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Aspinall finish him in round 2 or even round 3. But that is predicated on the cardio, which we don't really know yet. But yeah, good luck with your bet, man. Major saying happy people don't hate. For the most part, no, they definitely don't. Definitely not hate, man. Sean saying I don't hate any fighters, but I definitely don't like Paddy after that Gordon fight. Speaking of English fighters, why not? Why do you not like him? Capping service saying wouldn't be as interested. Yeah. Fubu, letting emotion into your bets is a red flag. Took me a long time to learn this. If you can't separate your emotion from a fight or fighter, then don't bet it. It will cloud your judgment. Yes, 100% true. This is very true as well. And this is something I speak about all the time. Emotional control is probably the number one thing that you need to have as a gambler. And I think that's why I'm successful in my personal life as well as just gambling. I actually attribute gambling to a lot of that because gambling has forced me to have emotional control. And that's something as a man, especially, we can use to our advantage in life. Emotional control is extremely important because when you make emotional decisions, usually they are not the optimal decisions, because optimal decisions for the most part don't come from emotion. They come from logic. But that's a whole nother conversation right there. And I'm a master at this. I really am but it's took me a long time to get here. I know a good amount of fighters, right? A couple in the UFC, and people will ask me like, "Oh, so and so's fighting this weekend. Are you gonna bet on them because they're your mate, or because you like them, or because you've spoken to them before?" And I always say no. Actually, I might bet against them. I once bet against Amanda Lemos, guys, and we all know how I feel about Amanda Lemos, one of the best fighters in the world. Been saying it for many, many years. One of my favorite fighter in the world, Amanda Lemos. So I bet against her. I actually lost. I bet against her against Marina Rodriguez, and that was a stupid bet. And the reason I did that was because I thought I just completely faded her cardio, and I didn't think that Marina would get stopped on the feet. But I was completely wrong. It is what it is. You make mistakes. Moving on, but I bet against my favorite fighter, guys. So, and I actually bet against Alexander Volkanovski, who's my favorite male fighter. So my favorite female fighter, Amanda Lemos, I just bet against Volkanovski, 0.5 unit bet on Yair Rodriguez at plus 300. I also had a massive bet, 3-unit bet on the fight doesn't go to decision because I thought Volk's going to pound him out in round 3, and he literally ground and pounded him in round 3. My prediction was true, but I still bet against him. So that's another way of demonstrating emotional control when you can bet against your favorite fighters, let alone avoid betting on them. So, yeah. I just want to write this down so I don't forget. Just thought of something. I need to speak to Benoit Saint Denis. I forgot I was meant to contact him a few days ago. Literally just remember that now when I was thinking about knowing fighters. Shout out to Benoit. Cashed me a big ticket not too long ago against the other bomb theme. Ismail bomb theme. Shout out to him. DX is saying, it's funny, I literally separate my picks into confident leans, fairly confident leans, regular leans, slight leans. Yeah, exactly. Another way to do that is you write a percentage on your read of the fight, or like, I remember what I used to do is I used to have a little booklet. And this is like, you're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. And I used to write down every fight on the card, and I used to do tape on every fight on the card. And then I'd write my true line, so whatever I thought the line should be. And then I'd also write like good read or like strong read, is exactly what you're saying, like confident in capital letters. Not confident the fighter was going to win, but the confident my read was correct. Sean is saying, reminder for everybody in the chat, smash the like if you're finding value in the content. Yes, thank you, Sean. I never say this. I always forget this. Smash the like if you're here already. I put these videos out virtually every single week for free. So if you can like and comment on the video, not in the chat, on the actual video, it helps with the algorithm. So shout out to you guys who do that. Always respect you guys. MMA Jesus is saying, sup, bro, sup, lucrative. Yeah, what's going on, bro? Fuba's saying he's asking for your dog picks this card, I think. Capping service, I don't know who you're talking about, Fubu. Capping service saying, do you ever bet contrasting props because there is value on both? For example, fight A by KO. Oh, I do. I have done it before. I usually only do it more as a hedge than like, oh, there's just strict value on both for the most part. Because also that's a rare case. Like it doesn't happen often where you think there's value on both. Because oftentimes they'll be opposing. So like if I think like the books are not stupid, right? How can I explain this? The books are not dumb, and usually they'll be leaning a specific way. The books always have a specific way of a specific outcome that they think the fight's gonna go to, right? So it's rare where I think there's value on one guy prop, and then there's also value on another prop that opposes itself. It's rare in and of itself that even happens, but then when it does happen, when the books are just wiling completely, then usually I might bet it, but that's more of a hedge. You know, like I'll say, all right, well, I think this fighter is going to win, but the only way if he loses is if he gets knocked out in the first round. So I might bet his money line, but then his fighter by KO won. Or I might say like, this fight's definitely going to go to decision, but there's a small chance that he gets a knockout in the first minute. So I'm going to bet the knockout in round one, like you said, fighter A by KO, but then also fight goes to decision. But that's just more of a hedge. It's usually not when I go, wow, there's so much value on round one and value on goes the distance. Even though I think there's value on both, otherwise I wouldn't bet it. It's usually more as a hedge when that when that situation arises for me. But it's extremely rare it even does arise. And when it does arise, it's even rarer that I do bet it. But I have done it in the past. It does happen sometimes. Any truth to PFL buying Bellator? Jesus says no, and you can't question Jesus. Sean is saying Paddy was very confident that he won a fight that, in my opinion, he very clearly lost. I also don't care for the ballooning up between fights. Yeah, he definitely likes his food, man. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man, because as a fighter, you have to have ignorance. Yeah, and this is what people sometimes don't like. People always clown fighters, right? Like, I can't remember who it was, but I said someone was like retweeting Terrence McKinney on the weekend saying like, haha, you lost or something. And I usually just don't really engage on stuff like that in Twitter. It's just like, I see it and like, you're an idiot, and I just move on. But for that one, I was like, I don't know. I just felt like commenting, whatever. I just felt like it in the moment. So I said, don't post that up, it's weak or something like that. And he was like, no, Terrence McKinney was talking way too big. I had to just retweet him. And I'm just thinking like, brother, he's a professional MMA fighter in the biggest organization in the world. You have to be ignorant to get there in the first place. You have to think you're the best in the world, even when you're not even the 50th in the world. You have to. If you've been around any fighter that is actually aspirational, if you've been in any gym or trained with any fighters, pro fighters, amateur fighters that are aspirational, you will realize that they're all delusional to some extent. And if they're not delusional, they're probably not going to make it far. So for Paddy, it's a bit different if they're saying it post-fight than pre-fight. So I'll give you that. But for Paddy saying, like, if Paddy's being a bit delusional about the Gordon fight, I don't really hold it against him, to be honest. And, you know, the point that I made there, that's not specifically about Paddy. That was more just a general point that I like to make. But you can tie it back to Paddy, because if he is being a bit delusional about the Gordon fight, as to where I had a Jared Gordon bet, mind you, so I should be annoyed, but I don't really hold it against them when fighters are delusional. You'll never see me laughing at a fighter calling themselves the champion. Even when, Molly McCann, everyone hates her for running around with a belt. I've never mentioned that because I understand the mindset. I've adopted that mindset myself in my own life, not in MMA to become an MMA champion, but just in general, just that delusional ignorance that you need to be successful in life. So, I just give these fighters a pass a lot of the time. Every now and then, something will make me laugh and I'll comment on it. Like if Molly does have the belt, I might laugh. Like I think Femba Garimbo, he posed with the belt and was like UFC champion before his debut, and then like he lost his debut. And I don't even think I commented on it out to anyone on Twitter, but I was thinking to myself, I had a little bit of a chuckle, like, oh, that's quite funny. He posed with the belt and then he got finished on his debut against like not really a good fighter. But you basically hardly ever hear me. It's very rare. I'll probably will do it once or twice, but you'll hardly ever hear me clowning someone or saying I don't like them because they're delusional, because I feel like you have to be delusional. But yeah, the ballooning up between fights, man, look, if he wants to be fat, that's his own belly, innit? But yeah. Boba is saying Lemos champ season. Yeah, man. Shout out to Lemos. Whaley kills Lemos. Should I block this guy? MMA Jesus, bro. You want to be kicked? Joking, my man. Capping Service saying plus 260 was one of the worst lines of the year so far. Yeah, man. It looked that way. He just rammed through him. I mean, Bonfim got up a couple times, I guess, and landed some good shots, but BSD took it completely well. Took it better than I thought, actually. And I had a bet on Benoit Saint Denis at plus 275, and he took shots better than I thought. And yeah, man, he looked dominant in that fight. So yeah, was nearly a 50% implied value. Do you ever do reads before viewing a line and then compare the two? Oh yeah, of course, all the time. I don't have a massive blanket rule to where, like, I know a lot of people say, I never look at the lines. I always do my reads first. Or some people say, I want to look at the lines because I want to see what the bookies are saying. I just do whatever, man. I don't really care, honestly. At this stage of my career, I'm kind of just like, if I see the lines before, great. If I didn't see the fight before, great. Whatever. Showtime is saying, talk to me about the Chris Duncan and Ashmore fight. Yeah. Showtime saying, I feel like Ashmore's KO plus 350 has some value. Duncan gets hurt a lot. I think he's been dropped or wobbled in every fight in the UFC. Did he get under the UFC banner, 2 contender series? Did he get wobbled against Omar? I can't really remember. I feel like at one point, like, he got a bit wobbled or something, but I can't remember. But I think Yanal's a bit of a unknown, and I do think that Duncan's more put together. I think Duncan's a bit unreliable, and honestly, I don't mind Ashmore's KO. Like, I don't mind it. I don't know about Ashmore's though. Like, I don't know if he's got good punching power or not. I don't know. Like, I know he's got good punching power. I don't know if he's a good striker. I don't know if he has what it takes to knock out Chris Duncan. I mean, I guess he could catch something. I know in his last fight he got a strike, but he got a knockout, but that's not really his game. He doesn't knock loads of people out. So I don't know, man. But for that fight, I do favor Duncan for sure. I think Duncan, Ashmore's was a plus 300 underdog against, who did he fight last time? I can't remember the guy's name. Let me have a look. Was it Sam Patterson? I think it was Sam Patterson. And now he's like minus 110. And I don't really agree with the massive market overcorrection. So for me, Duncan is just more of like a overcorrection thing. I don't think Ashmore's is going to be able to wrestle Duncan, and he does like to wrestle. So for that reason, I think it might be a striking fight. And for me, I do think Duncan is a better striker. He's bigger, so he's going to have a size advantage, a reach advantage here. And in my opinion, it's going to be a striking fight. Ashmore's could land. I think it's one of those ones where it's quite volatile because I think both fighters can knock each other out. But for me, I just think Duncan's probably a better striker overall. And I just think Duncan's more of the dog, more of a guy who's going to come forward. And so I definitely like Duncan there. But I do think it's volatile in terms of the knockout. I think in terms of the knockout, I think anyone could get a knockout. Fight Club saying, dang, you'll really remove my comment. No, I didn't remove any comments. I've been answering every comment on this and I have not removed one. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, brother. Fubu is saying, if you have a solid read on a fight and miss the early line, how do you decide when you call it and not play the chalk? Well, because it depends on what I cap the fight, you know? So when you're capping fights, you have to when you're doing a research on a fight and if you have a solid read on it, what is your read? You have to cap the fight yourself. You have to assign a winning percentage to either fighter. So you have to say, I think Tom Aspinall is going to win 80% of the time. And what does 80% mean? Well, 80% means minus 400. And if you don't know that, you can just type in betting implied probability calculator on Google and you'll be able to see it. So that's how I do it. You know, if I say that Aspinall, for example, let's say Aspinall, if I say Aspinall is going to win 80% of the time, then I am lining Aspinall minus 400. If I'm lining him minus 400, then even if I miss the early line, as long as it's better than minus 400 to the degree that it has enough value that I want to bet on it, you know, if it's minus 399, I probably wouldn't bet on it, right? But if it's minus 200, but I missed minus 110, I'll still bet on minus 200 because I believe it should be minus 400. So, yeah. Showtime saying first round, what? Ashmore's KO? Ashmore is saying, Showtime saying Ashmore sucks, to be honest, but if I played him inside the distance, be more of a fade on Duncan's chin. Yeah, and I think you can even get more money if you just do round one, because I do think Duncan fights like a bit of a madman. Obviously, nothing's predictable. He may get a round two knockout like Slava Claus. You never know, right? But I think round one boost it up a lot more. And most knockouts do come in round one. So, yeah, I don't know. If you're getting plus 350 on KO, but like plus 1,000 on round one, I would almost want to lean round one a little bit more, honestly, because that's a big, big number, you know? So is there any other fights you want me to talk about before I go? We haven't done a massive look. Jai Herbert versus Fares Ziam is going to be a really good fight. Murphy versus Kulabau is going to be a really good fight. Grant versus Marcos is going to be a really good fight. Wood versus Philly this is some good fights on this. My hometown of London. Unfortunately, I can't be there, but man, there's some good fights on this card. Honestly, Diakiese Alvarez is a banger. There's some good fights, man. I'll let the chat decide. If there's any specific fight that you want me to speak about, please let me know, because it's better than me just, you know, shouting straight up. So Sean saying thoughts on Davy Grant versus Marcos. Yeah, I like Marcos in this spot. I bet on Marcos before at an underdog price against, I don't know who that dude he fought. I can't remember. I literally watched the fight yesterday, but I can't remember that guy's name. But he beat him anyway. Finished him in that fight. And I thought he was definitely going to win by, like, I thought he was going to win. If he did win, I thought it was going to be by decision. And he ended up knocking him out. So I was very happy with that. Obviously, I think it was the first fight card of the year, and I bet him as a plus 140 underdog. So shout out to him for coming through and cashing my bet there. I like Marcos. Obviously, Grant is a beast. Grant is a UFC veteran, but I don't think that he's going to keep on winning. At some point, he's going to lose. He almost lost last time out against another veteran in, I don't know why I'm forgetting all of these names, but whoever it was, when he subbed him in round 3, which was a crazy outcome because he was getting dominated with the wrestling. In this fight, Marcos, he probably can get a couple of takedowns, but I just think Marcos is a better striker. I think he can play the range game well, or better than Grant. Grant kind of just bites down on his mouthpiece and throws looping shots, whereas I think Marcos has more tools in the striking. I think he can play the range game better, and I think he can punish Grant with straight shots, whereas Grant's going to throw a lot of loopy stuff, which is very dangerous and can knock anybody out because he has bricks in his fists. But I just think that Marcos is a cleaner striker, somebody that is going to be able to kind of play the matador to the ball of Grant. I think his footwork's better. I think he sees shots well. And I do think at some point Grant's going to go off a cliff. Grant's obviously an older guy now. He's got a lot of miles on his clock. It's very, very tough to finish him, but he has been beat down a couple of times. He's took a lot of punishment. He's a very good fighter, but I don't think he can keep performing at this level, and I do rate Marcos a lot. He's an undefeated fighter. He's undefeated for a reason. I think he's looked a lot better since he took that 2-year layoff or 3-year layoff, however long he was off for. I think he's looked a lot better since he come back against the Contender Series guy. He did gas out in that Contender Series fight, but he still stayed tough in round 3. He was gassed really bad in round 3, but the dude just kept on coming at him. It was kind of crazy pace that he fought at for the whole fight, and he was coming off a 2-3-year layoff, so I do give him some credence that maybe he's going to look better next time out. And in his last fight, he didn't really look gassed out at all. I know it only got into the second round, I believe, but he didn't look gassed out at all. Yeah, I think he's a very good fighter. And I think he's going to win the fight. I do understand that this may just be too big of a step up too soon. It may be that Grant, unfortunately, is just a level above, and it's too big of a step up. But my money's on Daniel Marcos to get it done. I think he's the side in that fight. But it's going to be a good fight. Either way, I think it's probably going to decision, that fight. And so if you're getting a decision and it's Davy Grant's on the fight, it's probably going to be a good fight. Probably going to be a good 15-minute fight. Culibao Murphy, Diakazi Alvarez. I'm just going to do one of those, guys, and then I'm going to shoot. Culibao Murphy's a close fight, guys. I think whoever is an underdog in that spot is probably the side. So I'd say Culibao's the side here. I don't know how much value you're getting on him at plus 130 since it's probably close to a pick'em, the correct line. What I will say is that I think Culibao has some advantages here. He may be able to get a takedown or two, but he's a bit open on the feet. I think Murphy packs some power, so I wouldn't be surprised if Culibao got rocked once or twice. Whereas I think Murphy has maybe a better chin than Culibao. Culibao has very, very good recoverability, but he does get rocked. It's a good fight, man. They're both really, really good UFC fighters. What can I say? It's a fight that is almost destined to go to split decision, maybe. You know what I mean? So in those type of fights, it's very tough for me to give a long breakdown, right? If I think one fight is going to win, I'm going to tell you why. Like Daniel Marcos, I gave you many, many different reasons, right? But and my man Narco's coming in on the opposite side saying Davy Grant, right? But if I have a read on the fight and I think one fight is going to win, I can basically tell you why. But if I think it's going to be a split decision, I mean, what am I going to say, right? It's kind of just yeah, well, both fighters have good chances of winning the fight for different reasons. So, yeah. Big value on Stoliarenko. Fubu's saying she's round 1 sub or bust. She won him big money against Jessica Rose Clark, but just sucks on the ground. This is a funny question. Can I ask what one fighter on this card is most likely to gas? I don't know. Let's have a look at the card. That's an interesting. Can anybody in the chat answer that? Because that's very interesting. It's a very interesting question, bro. Why do you want to know what fight is most likely to guess? I don't know why. Oh, I don't know, man. Don't know why I'm taking so long on this. Most likely to guess. There's not massive guesses on this. There's not massive gases here, to be honest. Muniz gasses a little bit. Marcos maybe gasses a little bit. Aspinall probably gasses over a 5-rounder. I don't know, man. Couple there. Fubu's saying Julia. Pogue's fat ass. Muniz. Tom Aspinall. Muniz always gasses. Yeah. Any read on Craig versus Muniz? Muniz to smoke him. Yeah, so I think Muniz is a good fighter. I've made a lot of money on Andre Muniz. Actually, I've never, ever been wrong on a Muniz fight. So I have a very good read of his style, very good read of his skill set, and very good read of how his skill set plays out in MMA fights. I bet the over 1.5 rounds at plus money against Uriah Hall. I also bet the fight goes to decision at massive plus money against Uriah Hall. I also had a 0 point something unit bet on Uriah Hall decision at plus 1,000. So I didn't think it was going to hit, but plus 1,000. I thought Muniz would win a decision, and I was correct. I also bet Andre Muniz against Eric Anders at about minus 200. And I also bet against Andre Muniz at plus 185 with Brendan Allen. So I got a very good read on Muniz, and I think he's going to win the fight. I think he's probably going to catch the chin of Craig. I don't think Craig's going to be able to take him down and sub him. Craig's not going to be able to take him down. And I don't think Craig's going to guard sub him like he does to most people, because I do think Muniz is an elite jiu-jitsu player, especially early. You know, even though he got tapped out in his last fight, it was more of an exhaustion tap out. It was more of a give up tap out. It wasn't a jiu-jitsu tap out. If Muniz rolled in the gi against Allen, Muniz is winning that, right? So Muniz is winning that roll. So I don't think Craig's going to guard sub him. So then what's going to happen? It's going to be a bit of a shit show on the feet, but Muniz cracks hard and Craig has a bad chin. So I think Muniz is going to KO him. Can anybody tell me what Muniz via KO is? Because I wouldn't be laying minus 200 money lines most likely, just because what if Muniz does gas and then obviously then the submission is live? Yeah. What is Muniz by KO? I would like to know that. Yeah, Duncan gasses a bit. Yeah, that's true. He does gas a little bit. But yeah, I don't think there's like one outright gasser on this card. I think it's like Muniz, Duncan. Yeah, there's a couple. Live betting purposes. Yeah, but how about most unlikely to gas? Yeah, that's interesting. I'll go with Kulabau. That's pretty solid. Yeah. Davy Grant's got good cardio, pushes an insane pace as well. Nathaniel Wood's not gassing, you know. I'd go with Nathaniel Wood, man. Or Andre Feely. Those two guys do not gas. Nathaniel Wood's not gassing, man. That guy's an absolute machine. Yes, I am on Marcos, bro. I am on Marcos. You probably tuned in late. I mentioned Marcos. For me, I think he's the better striker than Davy Grant. I think he's more clinical. I think he can see shots better. And I think he might be able to play the Matador game against the ball of Davy Grant. I'm also predicting Davy Grant to start slowing down a little bit in his MMA career. I don't think he looked great in his last fight. And I do think that he might, he's going to start to slow down at this lightweight class at his age. I don't think the weight cuts are very easy for him as well. So there's a few things I like on the Marcos side. But it could be that, the step up in competition is just too much. And I know Grant has bombs in his hands. So, yeah, I understand both, But for me, I think Marcos has got a good chance in this fight. Narcos saying he gasses. So he only gassed in one fight, right? He gassed against that guy on Contender Series, right? He beat the fuck out of him in round 1 and round 2 badly, dropped him, and he gassed out in round 3. But that was after a 3-year layoff. Then he fought someone who's an insane pace fighter in his next fight and just clowned him, made it look easy and knocked him out. I actually bet him in that fight as a plus 140 underdog, but I didn't think that I'd knock him out. So that was impressive as well. Marcos is getting better and better. And I think he's going on an upwards trajectory and Davy's going down. In about 3-4 years, I think Marcos cleanly takes it. But it's Marcos going up the hill, but Davy's already higher and Davy's going down the hill. So I'm hoping that Davy's past the hill where Marcos can go up and Marcos shines. It could be that Davy's just too good for him. Or it could be that you are right and his gassing problems that he showed on the Contender Series does rear their ugly head again. That is possible, especially because Davy is a pace fighter. But I'm not 100% sure that he's a full gasser. I'm not just going to say that Contender Series fight is, 100% he's gassing now. Because he was away for 3 years before. That was the first fight in 3 years. And that was insane pace that he fought at. I mean, the guy wouldn't go away. Just kicking him in the face and he wouldn't go away. So, but if he does gas, then I do agree it could be, it will be trouble for him. And you're right. Yeah, Simon was death gas 3 minutes in, which was really weird to see, honestly. And I said it after the fight because I had a bet on Marcos. And I said it after the fight. I was like, look, I'm happy to cash my Marcos ticket, but honestly, Simon looked terrible in that spot. I didn't think Marcos looked great. I think it was more that Simon looked terrible, but yeah, I don't know. David's the more complete fighter, in my opinion, but I get why you're betting him. Yeah, it's more of a projection thing, than maybe what I've seen. And that can work out, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But the knowns we have, Marcos hasn't proved that at that level. But I've done well this year with betting fighters that haven't proved that level, but they're taking a step up. Who have I done that on? But it doesn't always work because I tried to do it on Chelsea Chandler against Norma Dumont. I look like an idiot. Who was it? I've done it many times this year. I did it. Fernando Padilla. He was fighting Julian Erosa, and I know Julian Erosa's got a bad chin. I'm just saying, like on a macro level, I've bet a lot of fighters that are stepping up in competition here, and they've passed the test a lot. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. It's going to be, and like you're saying, it's a big step up. So, yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see if he passes the test. If he passes the test, he's a legit prospect. I think he's a legit prospect, but Davey Grant is a massive step up. I think he's a legit prospect, so we're going to see if I'm right or not. If he is, he passes this test. If he's not, he doesn't. It's like the Yanez fight, right? Yanez proved that he's a legit prospect by beating Davey Grant. Although Davey Grant was close in that fight, I mean, that's a split decision there, but yeah, so we'll see, man. It's going to be a great fight either or. It's definitely going to be a banger. I can't wait for this fight. I think it's one of the best fights on the card, but that's because I rate Marcos to a high level. Muniz by KO plus 350. I don't mind that, I don't mind plus 350. I think 350 is not bad because I do think this fight's finishing. I'd be kind of surprised to see it go to decision. It will be some weird Muniz double leg and just staying safe in guard type thing. I think Muniz is probably going to knock his block off, man. I mean, he's dropping down in weight as well. And we know these fighters dropping down in weight. It don't go well. When fighters step up in weight, it goes much better than when they drop down in weight. And they're dropping down in weight here too. So, yeah, we'll see. Narco saying Grant round 3 is a play. Yes, that's definitely a way to play it. Herc is saying, I swear someone saw in a different chat, Muniz KO was 800. Plus 350 seems way too low. Not really, because he's minus 200. So I wouldn't say plus 50. If it's plus 800, that's getting smashed. I know me and Capping Service are because I know the way the man bets. I know me and Capping Service are smashing that Muniz KO if it's plus 800. I know that for certain, but let me check right now because you motherfuckers are getting me gassed up now, thinking I'm getting 800. I ain't getting 800 on that. No way I'm getting 800 on that. If I'm getting 800 on that, then I'm about to bet it right now so you guys don't move the line. Let me have a look. And Cage Warriors this weekend as well. Anybody watching Cage Warriors? Fleminist underdog there. Skabinski, that's a good fight. I know my guy Narco loves the regional scene Cage Warriors. I'm going to look into that myself. Morgan Sherry, maybe he's getting another layup here, but he's minus 240, so that might not be a layup. That's a decent Cage Warriors card, to be honest. Ander Sanchez, Will Curry, big favorite again. I might have to look into that Cage Warriors card, Narco. UFC 291. No, not 291. Why is no one telling me the KO line? You motherfuckers are all betting it. That's why. All right. Muniz, Paul Craig. At the moment, KO is 350 on Bet Online. Is any other bookies opened up market wide that I can bet on? Probably not. It's a bit early for me to get on my local books. Plus 350 Bet Online, but that's usually worst price because they're usually the best market for the most part. So maybe we can get something. Maybe we can get like a 500, man. If it's 350 now, but who knows, man? It might get bet down. So I think I'm going to go now, boys. I'm getting all grainy. It's getting dark. Yeah. Narco saying, yeah, ACA as well. Cage Warriors Fire. No props, still not out market wide. Yeah, so we've only got 350 on Bet Online. So if it's 350 on Bet Online, unless that gets smashed, I'm very hopeful that we can get like a 450. Usually I can. If I'm getting a 350 on Bet Online, I'm almost certain I can get a 450 somewhere. I got a lot of books. So someone's going to hold a 450 for me. Herc saying 500 is decent. Yeah. Showtime saying you don't think Mooney. I do think Mooney's got exposed last fight. I capitalized on Mooney's getting exposed last fight. I bet on, as I said, I bet on Brendan Allen as a plus 185 underdog. But it's all about spots, my guys. We have to pivot. We bet on one fighter 1 week. We bet against them next week. It's pivot, pivot, pivot. We go back. Fubu saying cheers for the gems. Yeah, as always, man. Hit the likes, boys. Sean Hannon is already smashing the KO, so he's already making the lines worse for us. Shout out to you, Sean. That's a present for you. I don't know if it's going to hit or not. Capping Service with a $20 donation saying good luck saying appreciate this content. Yeah, thank you, brother. We got $20 from Capping Service. Maybe now I've got like $21 that I can withdraw at some point. It's funny. I looked at my YouTube revenue the other day because I get some ad revenue, but honestly, boys, I forget to put on ads for all because I have to manually do it if I do a live video. I always forget to put on ads. Like it's just, I think they owe me something ridiculous, like $60, like for the last like 60 days or something. Hilarious. A lot of money, but yeah. But thanks, Capping Service, because you're paying me more than YouTube probably, YouTube probably pay me nothing for that. So shout out to Capping Service. Always appreciate it. Herc saying head movement. Yeah, exactly. Duck and dive, man. Sean saying thanks for the stream. Great stuff as always. I'm out, guys. Good luck on your bets this weekend. We're going to make some money. Oh, yeah. If you want to sign up for my service, we're up 89 units this year already. You know I'm going to hit that 100-unit year soon. I'm aiming to hit that 100-unit in July with 5 months of the year still left to go. If we carry on the pace we're going, it's going to be a 180-unit year, which, I mean, that'd be crazy, but it'll be my best year yet. But if you want to sign up, just click the link in my bio or go to lucrativemmabetting.com. You're going to earn a lot of money signing up for my service. It's as simple as that. You can listen week in and week out, or when I decide to do YouTube videos, and get 1 or 2 free picks. But if you want all of my official picks and predictions and direct access to me, sign up with the link in my bio. It's a no-brainer. For the amount of money that you'll make, I charge peanuts, which I shouldn't really do, but, whatever. Accessible to everyone. I already get enough money from gambling, so yeah. Good night, everybody, and good luck on your bets once again.